April 18th in history. In 1506, Rome stood at the heart of the Renaissance. Pope Julius II, the warrior pope, ruled over a church hungry for eternal glory. On April 18th, Julius II descended into a freshly dug pit and laid the first foundation stone, consecrating the grandest church ever conceived. 120 years later, St. Peter's Basilica rose complete, Michelangelo's soaring dome defining Rome's skyline and the heart of Catholicism forever. In 1521, the Holy Roman Empire trembled with religious upheaval. A German monk named Martin Luther had shaken the Catholic Church with bold writings challenging papal power. Facing Emperor Charles V, Luther refused to recant. "Here I stand, I can do no other," he declared, placing conscience above imperial and papal authority. Luther's defiance ignited the Protestant Reformation, fracturing Western Christianity forever. His stand made individual conscience a cornerstone of modern faith and freedom of thought. In 1775, tensions between colonial Americans and British forces had reached a breaking point. Boston Harbor bristled with redcoats, and rebellion hung in the night air. On the night of April 18th, Paul Revere rode hard through moonlit countryside, warning militia leaders that British regulars were marching toward Lexington and Concord. Revere's ride mobilized the minute men who fired the shot heard round the world, igniting the American Revolution and inspiring a nation's founding story. In 1861, America stood at the edge of civil war. Tensions between North and South had reached a breaking point, with southern states seceding and both sides mobilizing for conflict. On April 18th, Francis Preston Blair offered Robert E. Lee command of the entire Union Army. Lee, a celebrated officer, declined. He could not bear arms against Virginia, his home state. Lee resigned his commission 2 days later and led Confederate forces instead. His decision prolonged the war for 4 brutal years, reshaping American history forever. In 1906, San Francisco was a booming city of 400,000 souls. Before dawn on April 18th, the ground beneath it began to tear apart. At 5:12 a.m., a magnitude 7.9 quake ruptured 296 miles of fault. Buildings collapsed instantly. Broken gas mains ignited fires that burned for 3 days, destroying 28,000 structures. Over 3,000 died and 225,000 lost their homes. The disaster transformed earthquake science, reshaped insurance law, and proved cities could rise and plan smarter from ruin. In 1942, 4 months after Pearl Harbor, America needed a bold strike. The Pacific Fleet was crippled, and Japan seemed untouchable on its home islands. On April 18th, 16 B-25 bombers launched from USS Hornet. Led by Colonel Doolittle, they flew low over Tokyo, dropping bombs on the Japanese capital for the first time. The physical damage was minor, but the psychological impact was enormous. Japan's homeland was vulnerable. American morale soared, reshaping the entire course of the Pacific War. In 1943, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto commanded Japan's combined fleet from the Solomon Islands, the mastermind behind Pearl Harbor, feared and revered across the Pacific. US codebreakers decrypted Yamamoto's flight plan. 16 P-38 Lightnings ambushed his transport over Bougainville jungle, sending it spiraling into the canopy below. Japan lost its most brilliant naval strategist overnight. The mission showed Allied codebreaking could reach anywhere, a turning point in Pacific intelligence warfare. In 1955, Princeton, New Jersey, was home to the world's most famous mind. Albert Einstein, aged 76, had spent decades reshaping humanity's understanding of the universe. On April 18th, Einstein died of a ruptured aortic aneurysm. He had refused surgery, accepting death quietly. His body was cremated, his ashes scattered, but his brain was secretly removed for scientific study. Einstein's equations, E equals mc squared and general relativity, underpin GPS, nuclear energy, and modern cosmology. He remains the enduring symbol of human curiosity and the power of imagination over knowledge. In 1956, Hollywood's brightest star prepared to leave the silver screen forever. Grace Kelly, Academy Award winner, was about to become royalty in the tiny principality of Monaco. On April 18th, Grace Kelly wed Prince Rainier III in Monaco's St. Nicholas Cathedral. 30 million television viewers worldwide watched the century's most dazzling royal wedding. Princess Grace transformed Monaco into a global symbol of elegance. Her legacy endures through art, fashion, and the royal family she built. In 1983, Beirut was a city torn apart by civil war. The U.S. Embassy stood as a symbol of American presence amid the chaos of Lebanon's brutal conflict. On April 18, a truck loaded with 2,000 pounds of explosives detonated at the embassy entrance, killing 63 people and destroying the CIA's entire Middle East station. The attack marked a turning point, the emergence of organized Islamist terrorism as a global force, reshaping U.S. foreign policy and security doctrine for decades to come. In 2007, a landmark legal battle over abortion rights reached America's highest court. The Supreme Court prepared to rule on a federal law banning a specific late-term procedure. The court ruled 5-4 to uphold the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act. For the first time, justices approved an abortion restriction with no exception for the mother's health. The ruling signaled a major shift in abortion jurisprudence and energized both sides of the debate. It set a precedent that would shape reproductive rights law for decades to come.